Hello, and welcome to part 25 of the Talos principle. Today we are not going to be doing one of the stargates, mainly because I only have 7 stars and I need 10. The 3 remaining stars are scattered throughout the rest of the game. I will in fact collect one in this episode, and one of them, from what I understand, requires you to scale some of the tower, which is something I'm saving for the end. So instead we'll be going through the Guardian Chambers, which are a bit... they're not exactly puzzles or anything. They're very simple puzzles, but they do involve a lot of those piecing together those Tetris pieces in order to solve those puzzles. So there will be quite a bit of editing in this episode. So here we have what the axe is for, going around and smashing up those wooden boards, blocking the way to those obvious entrances. But before I smash up the wooden boards in the other two world areas, there is one door on the first area of this tower here that I do have to smash up. Elohim doesn't care if you get this high, he's fine with it. But you need to reveal that source in order to collect a star somewhere down on this overworld area. So while I have fun recreating The Shining, I'm going to talk about the subject of today, which someone requested in the comment section to one of my videos, and then it seems he deleted the comment. But in any case, he wanted me to talk about virtual reality. Virtual reality, as some of you might know, isn't a very recent technology. It's just had a very bad past. One of the more famous cases of its failure was the Nintendo Virtual Boy, which was this very awkward, very hard to use piece of hardware where the only two colors you could see was black and vivid red. Suffice to say, it was not only a failure, but an eyesore at that. But the technology has certainly improved.
Those who have discovered the holiest mysteries of my garden may come to serve me as blessed messengers.
Valve is developing,
you walk now in
it
their
certainly
abode.
seems like it's ready for the
Be
market.
respectful, for their service is born
Games
from the
have
love
even
that
been
transcends
made
death,
with VR in mind,
and their love
ported to
is
VR.
for you also.
So, what is say on it at the moment? Questions like these concerning new technologies for already existing mediums of entertainment have to be asked in a way like, how would this technology improve the medium? What separates it from like a major leap in that medium that you simply can't walk away from? For example, with movies, a major leap would be the addition of sound, or the addition of color, or the addition of CGI technology for special effects. Then there's gimmicks or fads like smell-o-vision, or 3D movies, or I think the latest one was filming it in 3D, which was done for James Cameron's Avatar, and it ended up being like the one movie that I think utilized it the best as far as cinematography goes. And this is coming from someone who has seen a lot of these movies, was the third Jackass film. So, well, and then in video games there's things like going from arcade cabinets to home consoles, the use of polygons for graphics rather than just pixels. So is VR that next big leap? Well, there still are a lot of hardware issues with it. that I think makes it very difficult to implement in a lot of games. And another limitation is the fact that it only really works with first-person games. One of the big draws for virtual reality is that it makes you feel more like you're part of this game world. And there are a lot of games that would really benefit from that. For example, with horror games, you won't be able to look away from the screen when something scary happens. But I don't even think that would benefit all first-person games. The Talos principle here, for example, is a first-person game, and I think it actually does have a VR capability, but I won't feel any more attached to the puzzle solving, to the characters, or to the philosophical premises if I was looking at it through goggles and couldn't just turn my head away from the screen and look at this sleeping cat next to me than if I weren't. Well, what I mean is, like, I wouldn't feel any more attached to those things if I couldn't look away than if I could. Maybe it's a thing that you just have to get used to, but say third-person games require you to be like looking over the shoulder or sort of above the character you're playing as. That's not really an opportunity to be turning your head and looking around at the world, and in fact, turning your head around will probably mess up your orientation in the game. And the question is, like, how much can you turn when wearing these VR goggles? Because when I'm playing a first-person game and I want to look behind me, it's a few strokes of the mouse and I'm seeing where the back of my head was once facing. But if you're physically using your head, you'd have to either turn completely around in order to see behind you, or small twitches of your neck will have to constitute as fully turning, or maybe you have to turn your head a little bit and your character will continue turning as if you're like you yourself are continuing to turn. But that all seems very disorienting. This is all assuming the games don't just continue using the mouse or the controller for that sort of stuff. Another big issue I have is with interacting with objects. In addition to looking out through your character's eyes, they also try to make it as interactable as they can, being able to use special hardware or apparatuses to mimic picking up an object and fiddling around with it. Now, most of these object picking up time instances are just like the object floats in the air and maybe there's a disconnected pair of hands grabbing onto it. But the big issue I have is that there's doesn't seem to be any way to actually tell how you're picking up the object or how the object feels or should feel. For example, is the object soft or is it hard? Is it heavy or is it light? I notice in a lot of gameplay videos involving manipulating objects in virtual reality, it's just incredibly awkward. The object is always jittering, the person controlling it can just barely use it. If virtual reality is to be a next big thing, I think the sense of touch will have to be the next real thing they focus on, other than just like sight, which they've done very well with, in my opinion. So let's sort of, for sake of argument, say that all of the hardware issues are solved. The sense of touch has not only been put in the game, but have been done masterfully so. You can not only sort of feel the weight and texture and a density of objects, but you can also feel, let's say, how hot or cold they are. And let's even go as far as to say as they managed to make this applicable to the whole body. So you are as in tune with this virtual world as you could ever possibly be. Will it be the next big thing in video games? Controversially, I'll say no. And perhaps even more controversially, I'll say it'll probably become its own medium separate from video games. With video games, there's a lot of things that not only could you not do in real life, but you probably wouldn't want to do. For example, taking massive amounts of damage or straight up dying in a game when getting shot at. This isn't to say that no virtual reality game or no virtual reality in this far-flung future would be applicable to video games, but I think that the technology would spawn its own sort of media that's based mostly on immersion and experience. Like being able to travel to different worlds and just soak in the atmosphere, maybe do a few simple things, but nothing with an objective like video games have, let's say. Like in a video game, if I'm on some island, the objective is to get out, or to kill some boss on the island, or to solve a mystery, but for the media of virtual reality in this hypothetical future, it might just be a vacation spot. If you can't afford to travel to Hawaii or anything, you just put on this VR suit or whatever, strap on your goggles, and experience as much of a tropical island as you possibly can. There might be hubs or meetups for it, similar to Second Life. It'll be more of a recreation thing even than video games, because it really would be just hanging out and having a small, simple fun. And such things might not require the amount of intense movement and playing that a video game would. Like even for the Talos principle here, you're going to be doing a lot of running around, you're going to be doing a lot of jumping, and that's two very simple game mechanics. Or like more actiony games where that involves climbing over cliffs or doing these races or just all this insane extreme stuff. I think that those will be huge roadblocks in the technology. But I don't know, maybe the VR devs of the future will find a satisfactory way to handle it. I do think it could be used for some games. The kind of games people tend to point to most are horror games, but if they can figure out how to make like a gun apparatus that still lets you control it well and control the character and has buttons on it, even if it takes a bit of getting used to, if it's done really well, it might be able to incorporate first-person shooters to it. But until that happens, I think mouse and keyboard will have to be the way to go. But what could it be used outside of gaming? Well, I'm going to talk about that, but first let's listen to what Alexander here has to say.
Nearly everything on this planet, from the surface of the Earth to the composition of the atmosphere itself, has been shaped by life. It's a process that takes millions of years. But we humans, with our technology, with our understanding and manipulation of systems, have changed everything in just a few centuries. I think that's also part of what makes us human. We reshape the world in our image. It's how we create ourselves and how we destroy ourselves.
How tragic. Well, outside of video games, it sort of already is today. For training pilots, there's these flight simulators they can use, which are basically sort of virtual reality, just not strapped onto their head, but something they sit inside. A possibility might be for training surgeons where they can have a virtual operating room. Oh, and here's me demonstrating how I can't use star doors. They could have a virtual operating room where they are able to cut up a patient and without any risk of actually injuring someone, and also not costing any money to do it more than once, since it's going to be a virtual patient and not a model that will need to either be repaired or replaced or anything like that. But going back to what I said, the issue of touch. Surgery is something that requires a lot of feeling. You're digging around someone's insides with a knife. That's not exactly something you want to be practicing with using something that can't even simulate how hard you're cutting into it. For real life applications, I don't think it'll be virtual reality that's a big technology, but something similar called augmented reality. With virtual reality, you're looking at a screen and the world is completely made up. Everything was done in a computer. With augmented reality, you're looking through a screen that's basically a window, and superimposed over it is made up stuff. A very famous example is a game, Pokemon Go, where you travel around and you might be in a parking lot, or a museum, or a public bathroom, and you see Pikachu standing there. Now, aside from video games where you get to pretend you're a Pokemon trainer, augmented reality could have a tremendous amount of uses for the real world. For everyday uses, maybe when you're driving your windshield, you input a destination and this is how you get 1 stars. And your windshield forms a line over the road that you follow to your destination. So it's a bit like a GPS without the issue of having to look away from the road in order to see it. It'd be sort of an evolution in that technology where once you had this giant map you had to navigate with, then you have this small little map that works even better, but you have to look away from the street, and now just a line on the street itself guiding you through. For more specific cases, going back to surgery, there could be some sort of glasses that surgeons wear that shows them where to cut, the name of the veins and arteries around it, and just all this information given to them through the chaos that is a cut open body. I don't know how many of you watch surgery videos, but it is a total clusterfuck in there. So to sort of have a little bit of clarity through that confusion would help eliminate the issue of potential human error. And some people might argue, well, that would mean surgeons have to be less skilled with their knowledge of the body in order to do it. And maybe that's true, but I doubt it simply because I think they still will have to learn all of this stuff about the body and how to do the surgery. They just won't be cutting several life-altering inches above or below where they're supposed to cut. That's of course assuming that there are still surgeons in the augmented reality future and we haven't switched completely to AI doing it. And finally, one that will actually help me, what if when you go into a party or a meetup with a bunch of people, they give you a special set of glasses that you put in your name and maybe 5 things you're interested in. And you wear these glasses in the party, and you see all these other people around, and there's their name, and there's all their interests, so you don't have to play the game where you do 20 questions trying to figure out if you share anything in common. I don't have to ask, hey, do you partake in any of the major world-spanning billion-dollar media industries like video games or movies or literature? No? That's a waste of time.
I look at this inert shape and I wonder who you're going to be. Will you hold the same values as we do? Will you love us for having created you? Will you resent us for having put you into an uncertain and dangerous world? Looking back at our history, our achievements, our crimes, what will you make of us? Will the world you create be like ours or so different that we can't even imagine it? Either way, I hope that you'll find this little blue planet to be as beautiful as we did. I hope you'll take care of it a lot better than we did. And I hope one day you'll look up and reach for the star.
So those are my thoughts on virtual reality and then by extension augmented reality. And here I'm going to show you that if you collect all the red sigils, you can't actually use any of the guardians. So what are your thoughts on it? You think virtual reality will be the next big thing in video games? Do you think it has a bigger real-world impact than I made it out to be? And what about augmented reality? What's your opinion on those? Anyways, I hope I entertained you and otherwise gave you something to think about. The next episode we'll be going through some of the Easter eggs and secrets. But until then, take care.